What if everything you'd built, every late night, every handshake, every promise kept, was torn away in a single cold moment? Imagine dedicating a decade to a company, only to be handed a termination notice by a man who doesn't even know your clients' names. This is my story, a pulse-pounding journey through betrayal, clarity, and a comeback so powerful it reshaped an industry. My name is Daniel Harper, 46, a senior account executive at Triad Enterprises in Kansas City, Missouri. For 9 years, I poured my heart into building client relationships that powered nearly 40% of the company's revenue. But in one calculated strike, they cast me aside. This is how I turned their catastrophic mistake into my greatest triumph. The conference room was sterile, its polished table reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights. Marcus Tate, our new vice president of sales, slid a stack of termination papers toward me with a practiced ease. "We're seeking bolder talent to chase loftier targets," he said, his voice sharp, his custom suit immaculate. I'd spent nearly a decade at Triad. No shortcuts, just relentless travel, 60-hour weeks, and trust forged with clients across the country. My portfolio drove millions, yet here I was, disposable. I forced a tight smile, thanked him for the opportunity, and walked out, my steps steady despite the storm brewing inside. The warning signs. Marcus, 6 months into his role, had never joined me on a client call. He'd arrived with buzzwords and a new commission structure that slashed my earnings by 20%, even as my numbers soared. The signs had been creeping in like shadows. My desk relegated to a dim corner during office renovations. My name scrubbed from meeting invites. My computer mysteriously serviced during lunch. Small, deliberate cuts, each one whispering that something was coming. I packed 9 years of my life into a single cardboard box. A faded photo from my daughter's graduation, a ceramic mug my son painted with clumsy stars, and a private folder of client contacts I'd kept separate from Triad's database. An instinct I now thanked. "Moving offices?" Sarah from accounting asked, her eyes wide with confusion. "Something like that," I replied, keeping my voice low to avoid a scene. In the elevator, I stood shoulder to shoulder with CEO Victor Grayson, his gaze locked on his phone, oblivious to the bomb Marcus had just detonated. He'd feel the fallout soon. In my car, no rage surged, only a crystalline clarity, like waking from a long dream to find the house you loved was never yours. I drove home in silence, the radio off, my mind racing toward tomorrow. The spark of clarity. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my driveway. Ethan Cole, my biggest client, texted about dinner plans for his $1.7 million contract renewal next week. He didn't know yet. No one did. I set the phone on the kitchen counter, staring out the window at the fading light. 9 years of promises of being the one clients could count on. Marcus didn't just fire an employee. He severed the artery to millions in revenue, blind to the consequences. I joined Triad when it was still Midwest Financial, before the glossy rebrand and towering downtown office. Victor had hired me himself, poaching me from a rival where I'd crushed targets but hit glass ceilings. "I need someone who owns this market," he'd said, his handshake firm. For 7 years, I delivered, expanding our client base from local players to national heavyweights, stretching contracts to 3 and 5 years, landing Lockhart Industries when they ditched our biggest competitor, and securing the Weston Group against impossible odds. My wife, Laura, used to tease, "Another dinner with the Coopers?" her smile masking the sting of another missed family event. My kids grew up hearing Dad's working as their lullaby. I promised it'd be worth it. Promotions, stability, a legacy. 3 promotions, 2 office expansions, and a recession later, Triad grew from a $4 million outfit to a $30 million powerhouse, my accounts fueling $12 million of that. The seeds of doubt. Then Marcus arrived, waving charts in a quarterly review. "Your acquisition rate's flat," he said, ignoring how I doubled Lockhart's contract. "We need hunters, not farmers," he insisted, his tone dripping with condescension. Soon, my assistant, Emily, was reassigned. Travel approvals became a maze of red tape. Expense reports came back with nitpicking questions. Whispers of fresh talent grew louder, young MBAs with slick pitches and zero industry experience. Marcus called them disruptors. He hired Chloe Bennett, 29, from a tech startup, and without warning, she joined my call with Ethan Cole. "Who's the new kid?" Ethan texted later. "Training your replacement?" I laughed it off, but the knot in my gut tightened. A warning I should have heeded sooner. That night, alone in a quiet house, Laura was in Denver helping her sister with a newborn. I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and scrolled my personal phone. 9 years, over 200 contacts. CEOs, vendors, clients who signed with Triad because of me, not its shiny logo. My work phone, now lifeless in the box, held only formal emails. The real connections, golf games, late-night deal talks, CEOs' personal numbers, lived here. The bourbon burned, but a strange calm washed over me. No panic over mortgages or insurance, just a razor-sharp vision of what had happened and what would come next. The plan takes shape. My contract's non-compete was weak, 1 year, void if terminated. I was free to move. Ethan texted again, confirming dinner. His Lockhart contract, plus Weston, Carver Enterprises, and others, $1.5 million more, were up for renewal within weeks. All trusted me, not Triad's letterhead. I made a decision under the dim kitchen light. No angry calls, no vengeful emails. I'd sleep, then make 3 precise calls to my top clients, delivering only facts. I was no longer with Triad. The rest would unfold on its own. I unpacked my box, lingering on family photos, a Yellowstone trip nearly canceled for a client crisis. My son's wedding I almost missed. I'd sacrificed too much. Tomorrow I'd choose differently. I slept without an alarm. A quiet rebellion after years of dawn flights and pre-dawn reports. Morning came and I made my calls. "Ethan, I'm done at Triad as of yesterday," I said, voice steady. "What happened?" he demanded. "Marcus Tate or Chloe Bennett will likely reach out." A long pause. "She doesn't know our business." I stayed silent. Same calls to James Weston and Paul Carver, no pitch, just truth. By noon, my phone was a hive of notifications. Word spread fast in our small industry. The dominoes fall. 2 p.m. Victor called, voice tight. "We need to discuss your transition. Clients are concerned." I let it go to voicemail. I drove downtown to meet Lawrence Reed, an attorney I'd helped years ago with his son-in-law's restaurant financing. "They can't stop you from working," he said, scanning my termination papers. "But they'll try to spook your clients." By 4 p.m., Triad's legal team emailed a stern reminder about confidentiality obligations. By 5 p.m., Marcus texted, "Let's discuss an exit package. Maybe consulting work?" Too late. Ethan called at 5:30. "Your CEO and Tate promised continuity," said Chloe's taking over, even offered a 10% discount. I said nothing. "We're terminating our contract. Change in management," he declared. Weston and Carver followed suit. By morning, 8 clients, representing $3.2 million in contracts, had sent termination notices to Triad. Emily texted, "It's chaos. Marcus is blaming you for tampering. Victor's asking why no one saw this coming." Then, a call from an unknown number. "Daniel Harper? Nathan Grant, Grant and Associates. I hear you're free, and our mutual friends speak highly of you. Senior VP, a 6-figure signing bonus, full autonomy, and a seat on the executive committee. Start tomorrow?" I accepted, not out of desperation, but because it was the respect I'd earned. The hidden truth. A week into my new role, Emily called again, her voice hushed. It wasn't just Marcus wanting his people. Triad was planning to sell to Veritas Capital. They needed your clients as company assets, not tied to you. The pieces snapped together. My firing wasn't about performance, it was to clear the way for a sale. Veritas wanted their own managers, and I was the obstacle. "They pulled the offer," Emily added. "Veritas won't buy without your clients." The betrayal cut deeper, a cold blade in my chest. 9 years of loyalty, and they'd schemed to sever me from my relationships, repackaging them as corporate property. More clients reached out, the industry buzzing with news of my move. Triad stock plummeted 12% in 5 days. Victor texted, "Can we meet? Just us, no lawyers." I replied, I understand Veritas completely. His response was quick, business, not personal. But it was personal. Every client's kid's name I memorized. Every weekend call I answered, reduced to a deal's footnote. I dug deeper, calling clients. At least 6 confirmed Triad had introduced them to Veritas strategic advisors behind my back, probing for weaknesses in our relationships, laying groundwork while I was still employed, still trusting I was building something lasting. The rise at Grant and Associates. At Grant and Associates, I hit the ground running. 11 former Triad clients signed on, bringing $5 million in revenue. I was invited to speak at the Midwest Financial Services Conference on client loyalty in a transactional market. The irony was sharp. I accepted, not for ego, but because I knew who'd be there. Victor, Triad's board, industry peers. I prepared meticulously, working late with Grant's analysts to compile data. 53% faster service response times, 30% lower implementation costs, 22-point jumps in client satisfaction. No flashy slides, just undeniable results. At the conference, I spotted Victor by the coffee station, his face tightening as our eyes met. I nodded and moved on. On the panel, I spoke plainly. In a world of automation, personal accountability is the rarest currency. Companies mistake client relationships for assets. They're not. They're trust pacts between people, built daily. I shared my data, never naming Triad, just case studies of clients who switched firms and thrived. It's not about retention packages, I concluded. It's about valuing relationships over transactions. Get that wrong, and clients will show you how costly that mistake is. The market's verdict. During the Q&A, a young analyst asked the question hanging in the air. Your move from Triad to Grant, with major clients following, isn't that what companies fear when giving relationship managers autonomy? The room stilled. Victor's stare burned from across the space. Fair question, I said. But Triad didn't lose those clients because I took them. They lost them by misjudging what those clients valued. No one followed me out of loyalty alone. They followed because my approach met their needs better, and my former employer decided that approach didn't fit their new direction. I met Victor's gaze. Every company can pivot. Every client can decide if that pivot serves them. The market's brutally honest. Post-panel, 3 more Triad clients approached me. By day's end, Grant signed letters of intent for 5 new accounts, adding $2.7 million in revenue. That night, Financial News reported Triad's restructuring. Marcus Tate was pursuing other opportunities. The Veritas deal was dead. Their stock fell another 8%. I felt no triumph, just the quiet certainty of being proven right by the market's unforgiving hand. The final victory. 6 months later, in Grant's largest conference room, we celebrated $8.4 million in new business, 70% from my former Triad clients. Nathan Grant raised a glass. To our best acquisition, without buying a company. Laughter rippled, but I stayed quiet. This wasn't celebration, it was validation. Victor stepped down amid Triad's revenue collapse. Chloe Bennett emailed, jobless, asking about openings. I forwarded her to HR with a note. Worth a look. Not her fault. Everett sent a handwritten note, admitting his error, asking for coffee. I tucked it away, not ready to respond. Driving past Triad's building, I saw workers removing its sign. They were downsizing to a suburban office, a shadow of their former glory. I didn't linger, just drove on, eyes fixed on the future. A year to the day after Marcus slid those papers across the table, I signed as a full partner at Grant and Associates. My portfolio now drove $20 million in annual revenue, and the firm had grown 34% since my arrival. Laura brought coffee to my office, studying my face. You don't look as thrilled as I expected. I shook my head. I'm thinking about Triad, about building it right here. A new legacy. That morning, I'd approved hiring 3 new account managers, all with profit sharing like mine. No one would build something here only to lose it. That was my first act as partner. Ethan texted, congratulating me. We followed the value you. I flipped down a frame Laura gave me, quoting, the best revenge is massive success. that chapter was closed. I booked lunch with Victor, not to gloat, but to release the weight of betrayal. That night, I left to see my son's band perform, a moment I'd never miss again. Some fires burn away what's broken, clearing the path for stronger victories. I'd never been more certain. Join the journey. This story isn't just mine. It's a wake-up call. Have you faced betrayal in your career? Share your story in the comments, and let's inspire each other. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share for more tales of resilience and redemption. Don't miss out. Join our community today.